You learn.
And right. All right. So let's start with futures, of course. And today was not very eventful. We kind of knew that this day would not be very eventful, and also we had Laberman telling us it was pretty much a range bound day, and turns out that it was a range bound day, and nothing eventful, and that's how we wanted it to be, basically to hover around this line here, right? This is what, and the pre-market we charted this line and everything. We know this thing to this downside, to the upside, whatnot. Not to a T, but we know this line is somewhere. This is where the resistance would come in, or this is where it will hover around, right? And that's exactly what is happening right now. On the Heikin candle, you can actually see what happened. It pushed down, and that was just the that was just the wick coming down, and the bar is still here. So the wick, well, it doesn't really matter much, but so this is where we are sitting. And now what next? So it would depend on the CPI tomorrow. If I mean, there's no saying. Basically, nobody actually knows where the market is headed right now. And there are indicators that are telling us that that it's going to push down further, and there are certain indicators that are telling us that it's going to take a breather and probably stop somewhere around here and start to come back around, at least ephemeral way. So at least temporarily, I think we should be looking for a bounce. So let's see where it is headed. On the monthly chart, we can clearly see that it is going further down, and so this channel, we knew it was going to get filled, right, all the way from here to here and then to here. We knew this was we knew that this was going to happen. It, of course, it pushed down a little further, but then it was not satisfactorily. This bounce is neither here nor there. Either it should have bounced around here, or it should have pushed down further into this number. So we did not get either of those things. Now, what's going to happen? So by going by the technical indicators, this is still intact, and I put in a lot of weight for with respect to this thing, MACD. So once you have the MACD crossover, this is where a lot of people will exit their long positions, and rightfully so. Even I exited my long positions. So yeah, this is where a lot of people, in fact, positional traders, this is where they exit. And the fact that this crossover is happening on the monthly side of things, I'm assuming majority of the institutional investors have exited or in the process of exiting. That is what is happening. Will we pick up a couple of people here and there? Yeah, maybe possible. But then after that, this is where it is headed. 3907. Now, what is stopping from this happening? It should have happened today, right? We knew that there's pressure on the stock market, there's pressure on the tech and whatnot. It needs to come back down, but it got saved simply because Apple refused to push below its. Let's see, Apple and there. So simply because of this line, that did not happen, right? So Apple couldn't push below this line. Had Apple touched this line or tried to at least come below this line today, yeah, we would have seen this number achieved, but did not happen. So my base case to the downside is this 3900, and well, maybe I'm too off of that. Let's see. Uh, so if you are trading futures right now, this is how I would trade. This trade is not clear. Most likely, I would stay away from this trade. Everything is right in the center. Nothing is giving me any clear indication. But here, we knew this. It went here and hit that, and back in, and all of this day's activity, we were kind of choppy all day throughout the day. And this is where I think the futures ended the day, and right about here towards the lows or the doji, and there's no real action in here in the futures. And I'm expecting it to do the same thing unless there is some event that might take place, in the overnight session. But I don't foresee any of that happening in the overnight session. Most likely, we are all waiting for, or rather, majority of the market participants are waiting for that tomorrow's all important CPI number. So I don't think it doesn't matter now at this point which way the CPI would push. Most likely, there will be preliminary signs of CPI easing tomorrow. That's my understanding. Tomorrow, I believe that the CPI number will tell that the signs of inflation easing uh, are there. That's what it's going to reflect in tomorrow's CPI. And I do believe that, at least going by the figures, that's what I believe. Real inflation is way beyond whatever we are being told. Real inflation is gonna, I think it's gonna creep up unless they try to put a clamp on the energy prices, because oil moves into everything. Everything is oil based. Doesn't matter what you're doing, everything is oil based, right? And people, when we discuss energy and oil, people think about the gas that they put in their tank, but that's just part of it, right? Perhaps one third or maybe less than that. But majority of the oil is used in industrial capacity. So if energy is up, it will cause it will ripple through everything else that you see. Anything, doesn't matter what you go out to eat, you drive your car, you wear your shoes, everything is oil based. Doesn't matter what you're doing, everything is oil based. So yeah, and coming back to the futures, I'm not expecting anything explosive, or for that matter, any big moves. If in fact, if actually it can catch up to here to its 50, I think it will be pinned below its 50 on the 1 hour. If it can catch up to its 50 right about 2040 26, it will be pinned below this line, and that's the way I want to see it, at least till tomorrow's CPI number. Post CPI number, if it can break here, then we have a clear shot at this number today, tomorrow again. So base case is 4026. Good to have is 4061. Am I plotting anything beyond that? Maybe not. Maybe not. But yeah, so maybe not. I think let's stick with this. The downside, again, we got 3966. Are we plotting anything beyond that? As of now, no. But if it breaks below there, we got 3946. But tomorrow will be a interesting day to watch. So, so if what if CPI comes in hotter than expected? If the CPI comes in hotter than expected, then you can safely assume that Fed is not going to back down, right? Fed is not going to back down. Fed would want to clamp down on that inflation. So you are expecting another 50 bips in the next round of talks. So that would put pressure on the upward pressure on 10-year. And if there is upward pressure on the 10-year, that would in turn put pressure on the VIX, the upside. And if there is upside pressure on the VIX, that will put downside pressure on the markets. Cool thing. That's events. That's how it's going to unfold. And yeah, so to the upside, 4062 is pretty much sitting there. That's what all the indicators are telling you, that this is where it's headed. If it breaks above this, then we'll look into 4079. As of now, not plotting any of that. This is where I want to leave it here, right? So this is the base case to the upside 4025, and a good to have would be 4060, 4062, whatever this is. And beyond that, if it actually clears there, then we'll go for it. And to the downside, this is what I'm looking at, 3967 or something. And there's a gap here, so it needs to fill, and this is getting overbought. And this is telling you that the selling is kind of slowing down. So if it starts to push up, then we can easily expect 4045. If it clears, then we can easily expect 4085. Right now, not really plotting that. Perhaps anywhere between 4040 to 4060. somewhere around here, right? So this is how I want to proceed. And if it clears that, and then we're looking for this number. Let's see how that goes. And tomorrow till CPI, nothing is set in stone. And if CPI comes in, let's say if it doesn't, the number doesn't sit at this point. I think it doesn't matter which way CPI goes. We are in a selling mode, and sellers will continue to sell. Just going by the technicals here. So this, I think, this thing will still continue to push down. If tomorrow is an up day for whatever reason, because of CPI or whatnot, that will be an ephemeral bounce, just like this one here, and then it will resume to the downside. That's what my expectation is. Uh, Now, if it bounces, let's see how far it can bounce. 4170. Well, maybe, but we will look for a serious bounce if it actually clears that 4062. Then we will look for perhaps next number to the upside, and we'll start looking for a serious, even the ephemeral bounce, a serious bounce. So now getting back to Apple. This is what saved the markets today. This is what saved the markets yesterday. And this line is still standing between a total chaos and the market. So Apple 152 is the line in the sand. I am pretty sure this is the line majority of the market participants are watching. Should we break below this line? Yeah, selling will intensify, and by the time the selling is done, you should be able to see Nasdaq pushing into this number right about here, right? 11 100 to 11, and if Apple breaks below here, and if Apple pushes down into this number 143, something like that, then you're looking at Nasdaq most likely here, 1,000 points on Nasdaq. Cool. Right, and right now Nasdaq is bouncing off of this number, fair enough, and we'll take that number 11,800. This is bouncing somewhere on, it is dancing somewhere around here. So this will act as again a resistance to the upside, 11,800, just like it did today. And if it starts to rally, then we can look for a push into 12.4. Right. We'll go in the lower time frame as well to check what is the exact number that we want to be seeing for that. But this is where I would, if at all, there is a big good number on the CPI, and if market participants think it's a good number, and that starts to rally Apple, then yeah, we could look for a push above, 12, close into 12.4. But as of now, I'm not really looking at that. As of now, I'm looking at, this is my base case. 11.8 is my base case. So above that, we'll figure out the rest of it. And here is the gap again between the price and the moving average. So there's nothing to hold onto this candle, right? So either the technicals needs to come back down, or this needs to go up. So either which way, after an ephemeral bounce or whatnot, I think this is still intact. This will still get tested, 1070 or something. And should that happen, 1070 or whatnot, we will be net buyers here. We will be net buyers here of the market, or maybe equity, maybe through leaves or whatnot, but we want to be accumulating here, right? So after this, well, this should be a good spot to actually go ahead and buy whatever that is you're looking at, that is whatever that you've been eyeing, maybe an Amazon, maybe a Google, maybe a Tesla, I don't know. But another thing, if Nasdaq pushes all the way to 10.7, which is about 1,000 points to the downside, then I'm pretty sure we'll have Tesla 400. If that's going to happen, well, there are bright chances of that happening. Will it happen this week? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. But to the upside, if it starts to push to the upside, this is exactly where it will go and hit 12.8. Am I plotting that right now? I don't want to say no, but What if 11.8 clears? Then there's a bright chance that we might end up here, 12.3. But yeah, let's actually go ahead and look at stocks by itself. All right, so this is where, so my base case is 11.8. If that clears, then we could look for a push into 12. That's how I want to play this. And beyond 12, well, let it get there. Let it get there around 12. If it happens, then we'll look for a push into this 12 too. So let it get there. I think there are bright chance of that happening. Looking at the technicals here, so if it crosses above this, again, I believe that even though if it goes into 12 or 12.4 or 12.2, whatever this is, I think this is ephemeral. Uh, what are the chances of it passing this and going into the mean? Well, I don't know. I don't know. 1,000 points to the upside on Nasdaq. I don't know. I don't know. The only scenario that I might see that happening is where a huge gamma squeeze comes into play for the Nasdaq. That's the only scenario that I see that happening. But would anybody buy, even if there is a squeeze, would anybody buy the market, right? Would anybody buy the market? So that's another thing. Knowing what we know about inflation, knowing what we know about the Fed, knowing what we know about what is happening with the interest rates, knowing what we know about the upcoming, softness in housing, would anybody be willing to put their money, into buying and holding stock? I doubt that. I would doubt that. But just in case, if there are people out there who are willing to put their money to work, yeah, then you can probably conceive this path. 12, then 12.2, then 12.4, and then all the way into 12.8. And I would consider 12.8 if it clears 12.2 with heavy volume. And if I see Apple and Microsoft pumping, probably yeah, then. All right, so and this is the line in the sand to the downside. If that breaks, and we're looking for a push into 147.70. If that clears, we're looking for 143.60. And this is it. This is where the game will be played. Nothing more than that. Between Nasdaq and Apple, this is where the game will be played. And just in case, if anybody wants to see VIX, and VIX, I had high expectation from VIX, but today's or even all of this is not in the sell-off is not VIX induced sell-off. This is fundamentals. This is technicals. This is micro and macroeconomic issues, and on top of that, the war. Right, so we have all of these things culminating into one focal point, and that is troubling the markets. But this is definitely not VIX induced. VIX is still okay here. It was minus 5% points, so fair enough. This is not too much. All right, so okay, so what are we looking at? Let's get into. We want to get into SPX. All right, so SPX weekly. Fair enough. All of this, we also know about futures, and based on futures, we can actually figure. You might have figured out where we are, and then if it starts to push up, 41.60. Yeah, well, yeah, doable. Not saying not doable, but I'm not looking to get into that number just now. So here, this is my base case, 40.77. Should that clear, then we're looking for a push into 41.20. Right? We came pretty close to that today, but it was not. It We did not hit that number. But the technicals are there for a push to the upside. The technicals are there. There is, this thing is oversold. This thing is trying to curl back up. The only thing we need to hit is now the average to push up, just like it did here, right? So we want to see that happen. And again, tomorrow would depend on CPI. Probably we should be able to see this kind of a bounce. But given the way the markets are right now, well, where's the bounce going to come from? Again, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google. That's where the bounce would come from. So if you see Apple and Amazon, first thing, if you see Apple and Microsoft starting to push up, then yeah, the bounce, half of the bounce is almost there. It will easily it will easily make SPX cross this number, 4074. And yeah, so let's go back into lower time frames, right about here. Right. So now 1 hour getting oversold here. So pretty much this bounce was given there. At the bounce, we couldn't hit the mean. So my expectation is that tomorrow there is enough ammo for it to push up and hit the mean somewhere around here, 40, 42. Let's see if it can clear there around 40, 42. Then we can look for a push into perhaps somewhere around here, 40, 66. This is my base case to the upside, 40, 43, and my good to have would be 40, 64 to 40, 66. Then if that can clear, 41, 12, whatever this number is. That's how I want to proceed. And to the downside, oh well, again, 39.50 should be the downside. Let's see the base case to the downside. Well, this should, where is that? Yes, SPX. So base case to the downside should be somewhere around here, 39.70. This is my base case to the downside. Should that break, then we're looking for a push into 39.33. And where is that? Right here. So we haven't tested these numbers yet. So I'm expecting, see how close it came, but it didn't touch that. So we need to touch that. So we need to touch that. We need to bounce off of those numbers. So I believe that it is gonna come. It is gonna come back in, barring any other any situation with CPI number. If if the market think or the market participants think that the CPI is good, this, that, and the other, then most likely we bounce, and we have the numbers, so we can watch for the bounce levels. But if it doesn't, then we are looking for a push directly into this one. 39.53, and if this breaks, then we're looking for a push into this number, 38.01. And if Apple starts to break below that 152 number on the weekly, then and it comes back into 143, 10 points down on Apple, we will have S&P at 39.70 or perhaps below there. Right, so this is how I want to proceed with that, and that is why Apple becomes super, super, super important. Always have Apple, always have Bix, and if you can put something else like Microsoft along with it, great, great, great entries, great exits based on that. All right, Tesla, and do without Tesla for some reason. Before Tesla, we want to do Microsoft. Microsoft, uh, again, it bounced off of no good levels. It bounced off of no good levels. We need Microsoft to push into this number, right? It came pretty close. It came very close, in fact. I was expecting it to go down further and test this number. And tomorrow, if the CPI, happens to be a quote unquote no good, then 258 is sitting pretty much for Microsoft. This will happen. Even if not, for whatever reason, markets bounce. After that, it will have to come back into this number and test this number. It needs to happen. And let's look at Microsoft on the weekly. All right, yeah, there you go. This needs to happen. And this pretty much is sitting there. So if it bounces off this number, yeah, I think then it is okay to get into a position, perhaps to push into 277, or by the time it is coming back down into its 100, most likely the 5 would actually come back into 273 or something. And we could look for a push up and catch up of that number. Or just like that, if the market bounces based on that CPI number, this is where it is headed, 277. And if that clears, then we're looking for a push into 281. I don't know if it's going to clear 277 as such. So this is where it will go into and stop for now. But if it clears there, we'll look for upside. And if I want to trade Microsoft, I would again go down here on my 1 hour chart. And this is where I want to trade Microsoft. See that to a T, it went there and came back down. I didn't see any of this today, but the indicators are, very solid indicators. To here, came back in. If tomorrow it starts to move down to 68 and then perhaps to 67, and then we are looking for a push into 263, and then this needs to happen. This is the number. This needs to happen, 261 to 258 range. It needs to hit that range. That's to the downside. And to the upside, this is still intact here. This will still act as resistance. So 273, if that clears, then we're looking for a push into 277. And now let's go back into Tesla. Tesla is doing weird stuff here. It just, this is an orphan sort of a candle. There's nothing basing that candle anywhere. This is, neither here nor there. It is just hanging on to this Bollinger Band here. So what good is that? Nothing. So if Tesla bounces, then this will become now, this will act as resistance now. This has been acting as support in the previous week as well, but now this will act as resistance. So to the upside, if it starts a push, I should be looking for a push into 853, then from most likely 861. And the way that things are looking, but if it starts to push down, then we are looking for a push into 745, 750. Then we are looking for a push into 700, 711, 700. This is what we're looking for. This time, I'm not going to make the mistake of waiting for this line to get hit. I will just take my trade the moment it comes in here, and based on this. Right, 750 needs to happen for Tesla. It tested this number, bounced off of this number, but now I'm expecting this to come back in and then most likely test this number right about here, 750 or something. And this is to the downside. After it breaks that downside, yeah, 711 to 700 range, yeah, pretty much sitting there. And let's get into, but do I want to trade it that way? No. Again, I'll go back here. My trades will be based on this chart, right? So to the upside, we still have this intact, 823. So the base case to the upside would be 809. Then the good to have would be 825, whatever this number is, 826. If that clears, then we're looking for a push into this number here, 837. As of now, not plotting anything beyond this. To the downside, again, this is where it should go, 780. If that clears, 770. Should that clear, 711 to 700 range. That's what we were looking for on Tesla. Tesla will act as a solid sentiment indicator. So Tesla will act as a solid sentiment indicator even tomorrow as well. Today, we could clearly see that the sentiment was not really all that bearish, although I think during the day it went bearish, but later on, it actually wasn't that bearish. Yeah, so, and next one is this guy, Bitcoin. Bitcoin, you want to be watching this one, and I think I said this in the morning or evening, I don't remember, but Bitcoin seemed to be very much correlated with the Nasdaq, 77% correlation. Yesterday, I read that, I heard that somewhere. Uh, the the correlation between Nasdaq and Bitcoin is about 77%. And yeah, so that's what I've been following as well. That's what I've been observing as well. The moment Bitcoin starts to take a breather, the market starts to come back in. So yeah, yeah. So if so, per technicals, Bitcoin has to bounce here and go back into its five. There is nothing holding this candle here. But then if it breaks below, not if, there is this downside, right? There is this downside. Uh, still in place for Bitcoin to come back in. 21,800 will need to happen on Bitcoin. But right now it is sitting at certain levels that it is bouncing off of. If you see this here, right here, it bounced off of that number. Even previously when that crash happened on the Bitcoin. So people are looking for a bounce here, and that's the reason yesterday it bounced off of those numbers. Will that bounce continue? Well, I don't really know. I don't not necessarily, right? There's no reason for that to happen because more people are looking at crypto, something like a Bitcoin for that matter. There's no reason, there's no value. There might be value, but it's not worth 30,000. Might be like, might be $10, $20 at the max, but not 30,000. Certainly not 30,000. So, and I happen to I've been holding that view since many years, and I still hold that view. Maybe even $10, $20 is a stretch. It does serve a certain purpose, but not a purpose 30,000 valuation. It doesn't. It just doesn't. Uh, Maybe 10, 20, maybe I don't know. But yeah, so I will keep an eye on all of this data. If I were to trade Bitcoin, this is where I would trade 1 hour chart. It got extended, hitting the third Bollinger Band, coming back in, yada yada yada. So you know it's going to go up here, test this number again, 3120 something, and it's going to test the mean and start to push down from there. We know how this script plays out. If it clears the mean, then we look for upper Bollinger Band, then we look for the next move to the upside, which is about 31. And I don't believe it's going to move all that much. This is simply going to be range bound again till CPI comes out. And and whatever happens tomorrow, bounce, no bounce, whichever way it goes. And after that, it will have to come back into this number, 21,900. This needs to happen. All right, cool thing. And and here, this is where a lot of people are watching this number, the 10-year, this chart. And the 10-year on the weekly is still pointing down, right? This is still pointing down. And we are waiting for the average to come back in. Why would it come back in? Well, it, you can make the case that it is still close to it. So five, then why are we looking for a push down? Well, it's been running hot. It's been running hot. So unless and I see that this is making a curve to the downside here. These bars, the histogram is making a curve to the downside. So if actually, in fact, the MACD crosses below, then yeah, there's a very good chance that the 10-year might start coming down actually. So we are looking for a push into 22.92. Should that break, that would be that would cause issues. But should that break and push into its 8, which is about 277, well, we have a different set of issues that would come into picture. But looks like if that happens, Nasdaq will actually rally. The tech will actually rally behind this number. And if it actually breaks below there and starts to push into its mean, yeah, then there is something seriously broken with the economy if that happens. Even with the Fed pushing higher, if the VIX starts to come, sorry, if the 10 years starts to come back in, there's seriously something wrong with the economy. That's how the institutions will perceive it as. But then here it is. The mean is sitting at 2.9. A break of 2.9 will put mean will put 10-year at 2.88. And if it continues to push to the downside, then we're looking at 2.72. Yep. So this is how it's going to proceed. I hope this doesn't happen. I hope 10-year continues to the upside, even if I think if it hits the mean and still continues to the upside, I'm still okay with that. The fact it actually breaks the mean here, it hasn't entered this zone yet, right? So it is hitting that Bollinger Band and pushing off of that. But if it does actually enter this zone, then yeah, we are in trouble. Might be not market wise right away, but yeah, later on, they're looking for trouble. All right, so we're gonna stop with that here, and Yeah, anybody has any ideas, comments, concerns, or yellings, something like that? 8.1 is a consensus estimate for tomorrow's CPI. Nice. All right, cool thing. So
It's a wrap.